and I'll see you at the other side. So, just standing to begin, let's loosen everything off and get used to how our bodies are feeling this evening. So feet hip distance apart, knees are soft, hands on your pelvis. Let's just do a few pelvic tilts here. So we're imagining the pelvis is a bucket of water and we're just tipping that water out the front and back of the bucket, and then come to where your pelvis rests level. Relax your arms down by your side and take a deep breath in. And as we breathe out, just melt those shoulders down away from the ears. Nice and heavy shoulders, just releasing any tension. Okay, we're going to tip the head over to one side with a breath out. And then roll the chin down towards the chest. Imagine your head is really heavy and just let that weight roll you down. And then stack back up to look forwards. Let's go over to the opposite side. So tipping over to that side, feel that length through the opposite side of the neck and shoulder. Roll down chin to chest. That roll feels lovely, and then stack back up. Let's go again, a little bit deeper now, but still keep it super slow, so you're just really letting the weight of your head lead you through that movement. And stack back up. Good work. And final side. Round, roll down and stack back up. Okay, let's work into the shoulders now. So grow nice and tall through the crown of your head as if you're just being pulled up through a piece of string, and roll through one shoulder. Nice big circle, round and down, and then repeat that on the opposite side. Just loosening off any tension through the tops of the shoulders. Round and down. Good stuff, and round and down. One more on each side, and really try to set those shoulders down and into your back pockets and open up through the collarbones, and hold it there. Gently draw the tummy towards the spine, slide the rib cage down towards the waist as we float one arm up towards the ceiling, and bring it down, and then float the opposite arm up. So we're really thinking about keeping those shoulder blades tucked down into the back pockets. We're really thinking about avoiding that rib cage joining in with the movement. So imagine two spring coils just drawing your rib cage down towards your waist, and a gentle tension of drawing your tummy towards your spine can help with that. Okay, we're going to add the legs in a minute. So as one arm floats up, the opposite leg, peel the heel off the mat, maybe even float the leg up to standing tabletop. So you don't have to pick your foot off the floor. You could just lift the heel and stay here, or you can pick the foot up. Obviously, foot up lifted is a little bit harder. Okay, two more on each side. And you'll notice I'm shifting my weight across, but I'm keeping my pelvis level. So don't let your hips pop out to the side as you lift that opposite leg up. Really work through that standing leg. Okay, we're going to come to one side now. Hold that position there. You can either work to hold, test your balance a little bit, or with that leg, the arm that's floated up towards the ceiling, draw a circle behind you, look over your shoulder and swoop that arm under and forwards. And again, nice big circle, big balance challenge. Glancing over your shoulder as the arm comes round and down. You could do this with the toe just gently touch down towards the floor if it's too much of a balance challenge, or we can have the foot lifted, or you can just hold that leg in the air. One more circle. Okay, round and down, and let's swap sides. So opposite arm, opposite leg, heel lifted, leg lifted, hold or circle. Nice big circles. Just let your gaze follow that circle. So you should be looking over your shoulder, and that's where you're going to get your balance challenge. You'll notice as soon as you've got nothing to focus on visually, everything becomes a bit more wobbly. And we know that when we challenge our balance, we're challenging our stability. One more circle. Lovely. Round and down. And shake those arms and shake those legs. Okay. Back to feet hip distance apart. Take a deep breath in. As you breathe out, engage the pelvic floor. So back passage to front passage, and push up onto tiptoes. Relax down with the heels and release the pelvic floor. And again, pelvic floor as we lift and breathe out. And in as we come down. Good. Breath out to push up. Little squeeze of that pelvic floor. and release. Good. Let's add dumb waiter. So elbows tucked in at the waist, we open through the palms and close back in again. Again, thinking about those shoulder blades tucking into the back pockets, but trying not to let the rib cage flare forwards. Don't worry if your pelvic floors stop working, just remind yourself to try and do that little lift as you float up onto tiptoes. And if you can get that breath working well, that's really useful. So breath out as we engage the pelvic floor and breath in as we come down. And that's because we're using our diaphragm to help, that big muscle that works those lungs. Good stuff. One more, lift and lower. Keep the elbows out to the side now, so with the hands out to the side. And this time we're going to come to Cleopatra as we lower down into a squat. So stretch the arms out to the side and a little dip through those knees, and then push back up to stand as we draw the elbows back in. Lovely. Lengthen away. Try not to let those shoulders creep up as the arms float away. Nice long necks. Draw those shoulders down towards your back pockets. And make sure those knees are pointing forward. So no drifting in with those knees, no drifting out. Kneecaps have got beams of light shining through them, and you want those beams of light to shine in the direction that you're facing. Good. A little bit deeper. Take a bit of weight into your heels so that you're not loading your knees up too much. Glance down, you should just be able to see your toes and give them a little bit of a wiggle. Two more. A little bit deeper now, hopefully. Good stuff. One more. We're going to hold this one, so don't go too deep, okay? Arms are going to come forwards. I'm going to do those lovely circles that we just did with our balance challenge. So sweep the arms up, round and down as you just look over your shoulder. I'm going to have space. And hopefully you can start to feel that that's opening up the rib cage and challenging those legs as we stay in this little squat. Okay, two more circles on each arm. Watch those shoulders aren't creeping up. If you need to, push up to stand, shake those legs out. Otherwise, stay with me, hands on the hips, and we're going to lift one heel off the mat and back down again. And lift the other heel off the mat. You can't see me. Here we go. One heel lifts and lowers. Hands on the hips so you know you're not hitching from side to side. Keep that tailbone tucked down towards the floor. So we've not got any bums stuck out, no Donald Ducks. We're lengthening through the spine. You should feel a nice diagonal line running down through the spine. Okay, and now we've got four more, but we're going to do a double heel lift and down. If that's too much, just stick with the one. 3 and down, 2 and down, woo, and 1 and down, and push back up to stand. Goodness gracious, that's a good thigh one. Okay, lovely stuff. One more on the mat before we come down to lie. Okay, so you need a little bit of space in front and behind, because we're going to come down into that little dip of the knees again, and this time shift your weight across to one leg. If you feel a little bit wobbly, use a wall, use a table, something to support you, because then with your non-weight bearing leg, you're going to slide that leg forwards and slide it behind. So imagine you've got a straight line underneath you, and you're just tracing that line with your foot. Okay, I haven't got really enough space to do that. I'm going to turn side on to do this, and it helps if you've not got too much grip, so maybe working on your carpet or on a nice wooden floor. And what you're aiming to do is to keep from the waist up nice and still, that weight bearing leg nice and still. The only thing that's moving is that leg. Avoiding too much rocking forwards and backwards with your pelvis. So we're not doing that pelvic tilt. We've got that neutral position of the pelvis as the leg scoots forwards and backwards. And it is literally like a scooter. So if you've ridden a child's scooter recently, which I often do when I'm late on the school run, I scoot to school. This is how it feels. Okay, two more and then we'll swap sides. Should really feel that standing leg working hard. Okay, let's push up to stand and give everything a wiggle. And let's go over to the opposite side. So crouch down. Obviously, the lower you go, the harder you work. Shift your weight across and then stretch that leg out in front and lengthen behind. Good. Keep it going. Top half of the body is nice and steady. Bottom half of the body is working. At any point you can push up to stand, shake it out and join back in again. Trying to keep this beam of light shining out this kneecap, pointing forwards. Mine wants to drift in. I need to tell it off, point it forwards again. We've got 4 more. 3 more. We're going to visit this again on the mat, this kind of idea of sliding. 2 more. And 1 more. Well done. Hopefully that's warmed you up a little bit. Okay, push up to stand and give everything a shake. Okay, coming down onto the mat now. Let's just do 1 roll down just to loosen off the back. So starting nice and tall, imagine you're a piece of wallpaper and you're peeling away from the wall, starting at the top, aiming to work through all of those bones in the spine. See if we can get them working independently. Peeling down, bending the knees if we need to. And just hanging for a minute in that lovely stretch. Imagine you're a ragdoll, just let all that tension hang out of your shoulders, your hands are heavy and they're just pulling you ever so slightly over your feet. And then we're going to bend the knees and walk down to the mat into our box position. Okay, a little cheeky opportunity to do a little bit of mobility work. So hands slightly forwards of shoulders, knees beneath hips, nice long neck, so you're looking down at the floor once you're happy with what you're doing. And you're going to imagine you've got a big bushy tail and you're just swishing that tail from side to side. So as you do that, you're tightening your pelvis up towards your rib cage and then stretching your pelvis away from your rib cage. And that allows you to go from side to side with that tail. Let me come and see how you're getting on with that. Yeah, good. Brilliant. Okay, and then find that neutral position. So no switching from side to side now. Okay. And then we're going to find that nice long spine. So imagine you've got a piece of string pulling the crown of your head away from your body. And you're just lifting the back of your head up towards the ceiling. So a helium balloon attached to the back of your head that's floating your neck up. And then you've got another piece of string attached to your tailbone, and that's just lengthening away from your body. So one piece of string going that way, one piece of string going that way, gives us that nice long spine. We're going to come into our leg pull prep. So tuck the toes underneath. Now draw the tummy towards the spine. So you're just creating a tightness under your belly button. And that gives you a little bit of prep so that you can float the knees off the mat. Now we're not coming too high, the back should stay level. So you've got a tray of drinks resting on the back of your pelvis. Don't spill them, just hover the knees a couple of inches off the mat and then we touch down again. Okay, and then you reset. So long spine, neck, tailbone, shoulders down to the waist, draw the tummy towards the spine and we hover those knees off the mat. Okay, hold it for as long as you want to. This is where your levels come in. We're all doing the same exercise. Some of us may just be lifting and coming straight back down again. Some of us may be lifting and holding. But as we lift and hold, we're really trying to work on keeping that spine nice and long. And another thing to think about is those knees. Imagine you've got a rubber band tied around your knees, and as you float your knees away from the mat, you're just gently pressing into the outside of that rubber band, and that will keep those knees stacked over those hips. Let me come and see you. Brill. Okay, good work. Lovely, Jill. Lovely, Ivana. Make sure that when you're in that position, your head doesn't hang down. Keep that nice long neck. Oh, Becky, hello, you joined us. Good stuff. Well done, Luce. Okay, one more, and then I want you to all sit back in shell stretch. So we take our hips towards our heels, or child's pose if you know it that way, and just take an opportunity to rest. Okay, so I'm going to demonstrate the next exercise. If you found that leg pull prep enough, you can go back and just visit it again. Or we're going to combine that idea of skating in our leg pull in prep. So what that looks like is we float the knees off the mat and then think about that tray of drinks. Really try not to spill it as you scoot your leg forwards and lengthen it back. Now you could do a small range of movement. You could just be here sliding that foot up and down the mat. or you can really challenge to draw the knee towards the chest and lengthen it away. We're going to do 4. These are really hard, so if that feels like too much of a challenge, just do 1 and then rest down. And then we lift and we repeat that on the opposite side. So the knee draws towards you and stretches away. It's your toe that stays in contact with the mat. And remember, it could be a small movement. You could just be here, or you could be all the way here, or you can get rid of that leg stretch and you can just work on holding that position. Think about that tray of drinks. As you stretch that leg out behind and draw it in, are you spilling your tray of drinks? If you are, don't worry about the leg stretch. Focus on that tray of drinks a little bit more. Let me see how we're going. Oh, that got me out of breath. And remember, you can sit in your child's pose or your shelf stretch in between, especially if your wrist starts to get a little bit sore. Also, you could put your weight through your knuckles if you need to, if the wrists aren't happy with that. Lovely, Ivana, good work. Well done, Becky. Looking good, Lauren. Well done, everyone. Really nice. Everyone's giving that higher level a really good go. Yeah, that's it. Shake those wrists out and get back in. You've got a couple more seconds just to try a few more. I'm going to do 4 on each side and then we'll all sit back into our shelf stretch. Hopefully nobody's spilt their tray of drinks. Okay, let's all join into that lovely shelf stretch now. So sit your hips back towards your heels and push your hands away from your shoulders. And as you do that, you should feel a sense of stretching the underside of the shoulders, but also feel the back just opening up into that lovely flexion. Just use this opportunity to do a few deep breaths. Breathing right down to the base of your lungs, and hopefully as you breathe out, you just feel your body relaxes a touch more into that position. Okay, we can't hang about too long because we're only here for half an hour. So come to line your tummies. Just check out what we're doing and then you can set up. So you can either use a pillow or rest your forehead on your hands. And then in this position, we want that nice long spine. So you want to look down towards the mat and you want to tuck your tailbone ever so slightly towards your heels. So it's almost as if you're just gently pressing your pubic bone into the mat. And from here, we're going to come into swimming. So for swimming, we stretch the foot away from the body, creating tension and length, and then float that leg off the mat. Keep the knee straight, so it's the hip that drives that movement. And then we lower down and we repeat on the opposite side. And the aim really is to keep that pressure on your pubic bone the same. If you start to feel that your pubic bone sort of presses a little bit more into the mat, what's happening is you're using your back to arch and lift your legs. We don't want that. We want those hip muscles, those big glute muscles to do the work. So you make your lift a little bit smaller and see if you can just maintain that same pressure of your pubic bone into the mat as you go. And also that tray of drinks, it's still resting on your back. So try not to tip from side to side as you lift your leg off the mat. And if you're happy with that movement, we can go a little bit faster. So as one leg lifts, the other leg lowers. Now point your toes. It really helps to create tension through the whole of the leg and really kind of, without locking those knees out, try and keep the fronts of the thighs active so that you're moving from the hips. Lovely. Okay, so we're swimming. We're going to add some upper neck and shoulders. This is optional. So still looking down, start to lift your neck and head away from the mat. Imagine a juicy peach resting between your chin and your chest. You're gently pressing into that peach. You're not squashing it, and you're just keeping the back of the neck nice and long. Shoulder blades are melting down towards the waist. We're still swimming those legs. Keep it going. Okay, this is your level 2, so the head is lifted. Level 3, we float those hands up and touch them on the forehead. So the palms are still facing down, the shoulders are melting down towards the waist, but now we're holding that top half of the body up off the mat against gravity. Keep it going. We're here for 5, 4, choose your level, 3, 2, and 1. Lovely. Hands down, head down, feet down, and again just push back into that shelf stretch, which is going to feel really lovely now because we're working into all of those muscles that have just worked into that lovely swimming sequence. And then whilst we're here, let's do our down dog. So keep your hands where they are, just gently come over your hands and tuck your toes underneath, and then push your hips up towards the ceiling. And then as we do that, we're going to start to see if we can lower those heels down towards the mat. Oh, my glasses have fallen off. And for those of you that are happy with the idea of just bending into alternate knees, it's a really nice way of just encouraging the backs of the legs to loosen off. So we'll do a couple of walks into those heels and take a deep breath in. And as we breathe out, just see if you can sink those heels a little bit further to the mat. Let's just hold this for some deep breaths. So remembering our lovely deep breaths. And it's a strengthening exercise because we're bearing weight through those hands and shoulders and getting a lovely stretch down the back of the body. Okay, soften those knees and just come to kneel for me. Okay, so we're going to work into the sides of the body now. But before we do that, let's open everything up. So we're kneeling, facing forwards if you can, or just where you can see. Okay, so just glance down and make sure that your knees and hips are stacked over one another and you're not sort of sitting back into your hips. Reach down to the side, and we're going to take this into a side stretch. So reach down with one hand and let the other hand stretch up towards the ceiling. And then when you're there, just see if you can lengthen your hands away from one another. So you're sort of sliding your shoulder blades apart. Let your head hang to the side, come back to the center, and we're going over to the opposite side. So you're trying to draw a nice vertical line with your arms. And back to the center, good. And once more on each side. Let's see if we can go a little bit further now. Should really feel like it opens up between the rib cage and the pelvis. Very nice, Helen, good stuff. Okay, and final side. Lovely, okay, and then come back to the center. Hopefully you felt a little bit closer to the floor on that second time. So that's just opened up the sides of the body so that we can work into our side kick. Now, those of you that know this one, what we're doing here is we're reaching down to the side of the mat and lengthening one leg away, okay? Now, sometimes the floor can be a little bit far away, so you might choose to get a couple of pillows or something like that just to lean through. But if you can, reach your hand down towards the mat, or maybe make a fist and lean through your fist. Now, what you're aiming to do with the leg that you're bearing your weight through, you're trying to keep that hip stacked over that knee. What we want to avoid is you collapsing off that hip. And if that's the case, if you can't correct it by pushing away, bring yourself up with a couple of pillows, or you could lean through your sofa or lean through a chair. Okay, and this is where we are. Now remember that lovely sliding movement that we did forwards and backwards earlier on in standing and later on in our 4-point kneeling. We're going to revisit that again. So slide your leg forwards and then slide it back. So you've got that vertical line and you're just tracing along with your toe. Now, we've got a cup of tea now and it's resting on that top hip. So see if you can keep that hip nice and level and let those muscles around the groin, around that hip region below, do all of the work. Now, some of you might be finding this pretty manageable. So if you want to fire up those glutes a little bit more, see if you can float your leg up to hip height and now draw that line, but this time it's along that wall. So you're tracing that line with your leg, trying to keep your foot in line with your hip in between. This is a big challenge to lift that leg up. So see how you go with it. Maybe just do 1 or 2, lower down, and then do 1 or 2 on the floor, and then 1 or 2 in the air. Absolutely a great way of building up that tolerance and endurance. Super. 2 more. And 1 more. Lovely stuff. Okay, touch down, and if you need to, just come off that wrist if it's feeling a little bit sore. Okay, so that's working this out to hip. Now we're going to work the side of the body. So come back to that position this time. Stretch the hand up and over. Now I want you to think about touching your elbow to your straight knee. So what does that look like? We're going to bend the elbow, bend the knee, and touch, and lengthen away. So diagonal line, and touch. Diagonal line, and touch, okay? If you want to work a little bit harder, don't tap that foot down. So we come from here, and lengthen. We've got 4 more. Do what you can, guys. Remember, rest is always an option. 3 more. Tightening the side of the body and lengthening. 2 more. Good work, guys. And 1 more. 5 minutes we've got left. We're nearly there. Okay. Stretch and hold. Stretch and hold. The foot could be down on the floor, but try and stretch the foot away from the fingertips. Now, everybody touch that foot down onto the floor. Take that top hand and we're going to thread the needle. So we're going to pass between the space that we've created between our hand and our knee. And oh, that feels lovely. Just a stretch through the upper spine. Okay, and then come back to the center. And let's go over to the opposite side now. So, reaching out with the opposite hand. Remember, you could raise the floor a little bit or lean through the chair and stretch that leg away. Cup of tea resting on that top hip. You've got that line along the floor. You're going to start to trace your foot along that line, seeing if you can keep everything else nice and steady and just let that leg do the moving. Remember your levels. So level 1 here. Level 2, we float up to hip height and see if we can float that leg across. If you want to go for endurance, guys, don't touch down. If you need a little bit of a rest, if you're losing your form, touch down and reset. Right, now you know what you're doing second time round. Let me come and see you. Oh, Helen, I like that variation. That's really good. Very nice. Well done, George. Good runners one. Well done, Lucy. That's it, Liz. That's it. Lovely. Okay, let's pause there. Well done, Chris. I can see the effort there. Really good. Okay, if you need to, just stretch everything out, and then we're going to set back up as we come to our elbow to knee. So stretch through the body. Foot can be on the floor or lifted, and then we close down and tap and lengthen and tap and lengthen. Good. Try and think about that knee that's on the floor. See if you can keep your knees and hips stacked on top of one another, because you should feel the underside of that bottom leg working quite hard as well. 2 more and stretch. Good. And lengthen and hold. The foot is lifted or lowered. I'll let you decide. And hold. And then we're going to take it to that thread the needle, so the top hand passes on the underside of the body, and oh, everything just feels lovely and twisted and opened as we do so. Brill. And then come back to the center and push back into our shell stretch. Brilliant. Hopefully your hips are nice and spicy now. You can feel the outside of those legs working. So let's walk the hands over to the right hand side and push into our left hip, just to stretch it a little bit more. And then come back to the center and walk your hands over to your left side and push into your right hip. And then come back to the center and push back to both hips. And see if you can really stretch those fingers away from your shoulders. Lovely. And let's finally roll back up to stand. So just tuck your toes underneath, coming off of your knees. And imagine you're that piece of wallpaper again. But this time you're being put back onto the wall. So you're smoothing your spine up the wall, starting from the tailbone, up through the lower back, up through the rib cage. Go at your own pace. And then finally smoothing the top bit of that wallpaper up at the ceiling. Good work, guys. I think we're almost there, but don't rush it. If you want to take some more time doing those,